They said it would never happen, that the war would remain in the shadows, that Iran would never cross the red line. But tonight, the world changed. Sirens screamed across the skies of Tel Aviv, panic echoed through underground bunkers. Mothers grabbed their children. Soldiers rushed to their posts. And a terrifying message shook the region. Iran and the Houthis have launched a full-scale missile and drone assault on Israel, the single largest attack the nation has faced in recent years. 65 ballistic missiles, dozens of unmanned aerial vehicles, all within a span of minutes. Israel's Iron Dome lit the night sky, intercepting a barrage that could have annihilated entire cities. And now, as smoke still rises from impact zones, the world is waking up to a reality we hoped would never come. This isn't just another skirmish. This is not tit for tat. This is war written in fire. And it's not only about Israel or Iran. This could be the ignition spark for something far more catastrophic. A regional war, perhaps. A global conflict, maybe even that. To understand what just happened, we have to rewind. Over the past several months, tensions have been mounting between Israel and Iran. While the world focused on Ukraine, Gaza and Taiwan, a silent powder keg was building in the Middle East. Israel locked in a multi-front campaign from Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, and constant threats from Iranian proxies, was always watching Tehran. But what no one expected was for Iran to pull the trigger directly and at such a scale. Sources from Israeli intelligence report that approximately 2:13 a.m. local time, over 65 precision-guided missiles were fired from locations inside Iran and Yemen, targeting Israeli air bases, nuclear facilities, and key military installations. Dozens of kamikaze drones followed, likely Shade class, launched from Houthi-controlled areas in Yemen. The Houthis, heavily backed and armed by Iran, have increasingly become a long-range threat. But never like this. The response was immediate. Israel scrambled F-35s, deployed Iron Dome batteries across the nation, and invoked emergency military protocols. Social media exploded with footage of the night sky being torn apart. Flashes, explosions, the terrifying buzz of drones over civilian areas. And yet, miraculously, many of the attacks were thwarted. Israeli defenses worked overtime, but not all made it through. Several missiles struck near Dimona, Israel's nuclear facility. Others hit infrastructure in the Negev desert. Reports of casualties are still coming in. Preliminary counts suggest at least 19 injured, with 4 in critical condition. Power outages were reported in multiple cities. One missile landed just 10 kilometers from the US embassy in Jerusalem. And the question now echoing through the halls of power across the globe: what happens next? President Biden has reportedly been briefed and is in communication with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. NATO has called an emergency meeting. The UN Security Council has scheduled a session within the hour. And yet, few believe this will be solved through diplomacy. Not anymore. For years, the Islamic Republic of Iran played a dangerous game, funding and training proxy militias across the region, Hezbollah in Lebanon, the PF in Iraq, Hamas in Gaza, and the Houthis in Yemen. While Israel responded tactically to individual threats, the greater confrontation had always loomed in the background. Iran, emboldened by weakening Western influence and economic desperation, has now made its move. Analysts say this attack may have been Iran's response to recent covert Israeli strikes on its nuclear scientists and military installations. Just last week, a top Iranian general was killed in Damascus, reportedly by Israeli jets. Tehran had vowed revenge. Few believed it would be this direct. And while Iran hasn't officially taken credit, its fingerprints are everywhere. Satellite imagery shows launch sites in Iran's Khuzestan province. Intercepted communications between Houthi commanders confirm coordination with RGC operatives. The Shade drones used are Iranian manufactured. One missile fragment retrieved near Ashdod bears Farsi markings. But Iran is not alone. The Houthis' involvement marks a significant escalation. Previously confined to regional skirmishes, the Houthis have now expanded their battlefield, openly targeting Israel, likely with Iran's approval. This changes everything. Israel, meanwhile, is preparing for retaliation. The IDF has mobilized reservists. The Air Force is already targeting launch facilities in Yemen. There are reports of Israeli submarines heading toward the Persian Gulf. And the world waits, watching nervously, for the next move, Panjshir movement. What does this mean for the broader region? Lebanon's Hezbollah is reportedly on high alert. Syrian airspace is now closed. Jordan has deployed anti-aircraft batteries on its western border. Saudi Arabia, surprisingly quiet, has condemned the attack, calling for urgent de-escalation. But Riyadh knows it's in the line of fire too. The entire Middle East is bracing. And this isn't just a regional issue. The Strait of Hormuz, the artery of global oil, is under threat. If Iran escalates further, or if Israel retaliates with full force, global oil prices could skyrocket. Already, futures markets are reacting. Brent crude spiked $8 in a single hour. The economic fallout could hit everyone, not just those in the Middle East. Beyond oil and geopolitics, there's a deeper question haunting us all. How did we get here? Why is a region so rich in history, culture, and spirituality always on the verge of destruction? Why do ancient rivalries and modern politics keep pushing us toward war? Why, despite decades of diplomacy, treaties, summits, and ceasefires, do we always return to the brink? And perhaps the most haunting question of all, will this time be the last straw before it all burns down? In Tel Aviv, a father posts a video from his bomb shelter. His young daughter clutches a teddy bear, asking why the sky is angry. In Sana'a, Houthi fighters celebrate, chanting slogans and firing rifles in the air. In Tehran, silence. No official announcement, just a chilling calm. And in Washington, London, Riyadh, Cairo, frantic meetings, emergency calls, and calculations of what comes next. This isn't just politics, this is life and death. And it is unfolding now. The coming hours will be critical. Will Israel retaliate directly against Iran? Will Hezbollah join the fight? Will the US intervene? Will this become a regional inferno, or can it still be pulled back? As the dust begins to settle in parts of Israel, the alarms may have stopped blaring, but fear remains thick in the air. Civilians emerge from bunkers to shattered glass, scorched buildings, and plumes of smoke spiraling into the early morning sky. Schools are closed, flights are grounded. The country stands on the edge of war. In the war rooms beneath Tel Aviv, Israeli generals aren't just reacting, they're planning. This wasn't a warning shot. This was a declaration of war. The first time in years, direct Iranian aggression has pierced through red lines. Israel now has a decision to making: retaliate immediately and risk regional escalation, or wait, gather intelligence and strike strategically. But Israel is not the only nation calculating risk. In Iran, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has called a high-level meeting with top IRGC commanders. Leaks suggest they believe they've delivered a powerful message to Israel, and perhaps more importantly, to the United States: we will not be contained. What message does this send to the Arab world? The Gulf states are watching closely. Saudi Arabia, having recently reopened diplomatic channels with Iran through Chinese mediation, now finds itself caught in the middle. While Riyadh remains a sworn enemy of Israel in many ways, it also fears Iran's growing dominance, especially if that dominance now includes the military capability to strike Israeli targets, and perhaps even further. Civilians across the region are glued to their screens. In Lebanon, people fear the streets of Beirut could soon echo with the sounds of Israeli air raids if Hezbollah joins the war. In Iraq, militia groups loyal to Iran have been seen mobilizing. Gaza, celebrations broke out overnight, fireworks, chants, flag waving, while Israeli drones now circle above. And in the United States, political chaos is brewing. The president addressed the nation briefly. America stands by its allies. Israel has a right to defend itself. We urge all actors to avoid further escalation. Yet behind closed doors, Pentagon officials are preparing contingency plans. The USS Dwight D. Eisenhower Carrier Strike Group has been repositioned in the Mediterranean. Elite US troops in the region have been placed on high alert. Make no mistaking, the world is on the edge of a cliff. And while most analysts still hesitate to use the term world war, the patterns are disturbingly familiar. Alliance systems are forming. Proxy conflicts are turning direct. Religious, ethnic, and political divisions are fueling the fire. And now, the three most volatile flashpoints on the planet, Ukraine, Taiwan, and the Middle East, are all simultaneously. But perhaps the most terrifying piece of this puzzle is that we may have crossed the point of no return. The Houthis, emboldened by Iranian support and international action, have promised more attacks. Their spokesperson declared on live TV, Israel is not safe. More missiles are coming. This is just the beginning. The same Houthis that once focused on Saudi Arabia and the UAE have now placed Israel in their crosshairs, and they have the capability to strike. And in Israel, the political division of recent months, protests, internal strife, judicial reform debates, have suddenly vanished. The nation is now unified in crisis. Citizens, whether left, right, secular or religious, are preparing for war. Bomb shelters are being stocked. Supermarkets are overwhelmed. Hospitals are operating under emergency protocols. It's not just military targets at risk anymore. its civilians. A leaked audio recording from an IDF commander reportedly says this is bigger than 2006, bigger than Operation Protective Edge. This might be the big one. So what does this mean for the average person watching this unfold? It means fuel prices could rise sharply in the coming days. It means air travel from the Middle East will be restricted. It means investors may pull out of unstable markets, causing ripple effects across global economies. And it means, tragically, that innocent lives, Israeli, Iranian, Yemeni, Lebanese, will be lost in a war they didn't start and cannot stop. Here's where history often repeats itself. We watch, we mourn, we debate, and then we forget until the next war starts. But this time we must not look away, because this war, unlike the ones before, has the potential to spread far beyond borders. Russia, heavily engaged in Ukraine, has strong ties with Iran. China, positioning itself as a global mediator, has deep trade and military cooperation with Tehran, the United States, the EU, NATO. All are now forced into strategic recalculations. And if the region spirals further, the dominoes could fall fast. The Israeli government is now considering direct strikes on Iranian soil, something they've never done in full-scale fashion before. Not proxies, not covert ops, but real warfare. And if that happens, if Iranian cities are bombed, we enter uncharted territory. Iran may respond with longer-range missiles. Hezbollah could rain tens of thousands of rockets on northern Israel. American bases in Iraq and Syria could be targeted. The Red Sea could become a war zone, and the oil markets would collapse overnight. Meanwhile, public opinion is split. Some call for restraint, others demand justice. Social media is ablaze with misinformation, videos, propaganda, and fear. Influencers are taking sides. Governments are issuing travel advisories. News anchors struggle to keep up. And while all this plays out on screens and feeds, real people are bleeding in the streets. Children, families, soldiers, medics. And that is the cruel truth of war. The ones who suffer most are never the ones who start it. The world is shocked, yes, but shock is not enough. Action is needed. Leadership is needed. Truth is needed. And above all, humanity is needed. Because if this fire spreads, if this becomes the next great war, it will not spare anyone. Not in Tel Aviv, not in Tehran, in Washington, not in Mecca, Moscow, not even in your quiet hometown. We stand today not on the edge of war. We stand in it. We are watching it unfold in real time. And unless something or someone pulls the emergency brake, history will look back at this moment as the beginning of a global unraveling. The missiles may have stopped falling for now, but the silence that follows may be even more dangerous. The next move could change everything. The early morning silence in Israel has turned into a fragile calm. Sirens aren't howling, but they could start at any second. Fighter jets roar across the skies, making low passes over cities and countryside alike. Everyone knows what's coming next, like retaliation, but how far will it go? The Israeli Security Cabinet has just approved a large-scale military response. Reports confirm that airstrikes have already begun against key Houthi missile bases in Yemen. At the same time, several Iranian positions inside Syria, believed to be operated by the RGC, have been reduced to rubble by precision airstrikes. This is just the beginning. Sources close to the IDF say that Israel is preparing for some far bigger, a possible strike inside Iranian territory. This would mark the first open war between two sovereign states in the Middle East since the Iran-Iraq war. But this time, it's not just a border dispute or ideological clash. It's a war of survival, identity, and dominance. And that's where the global powers come in. Russia has issued a strongly worded statement warning Israel not to attack Iran directly. China has called for mutual restraint and preservation of regional stability. The United Nations Security Council meeting ended in deadlock, as always, with no unified resolution. Palestinian movement. The US, caught between its historic alliance with Israel and its desire to avoid another Middle East war, has sent mixed signals. While military aid has been pledged, direct American involvement has not yet been confirmed, but America may not be able to stay out for long. US bases in Syria and Iraq have been placed on maximum alert. Several rocket attacks have already targeted American forces near Erbil and Al-Tanf. No casualties reported yet, but the message is clear: stay out or face the consequences.